There's been a lot of discussions about James Harden's return back to Houston. Y'all know where I stand on this. You guys have already heard me talk about it. But new information just dropped from the Bleacher report with Chris Haynes letting us know what Harden's demands are. Y'all know how I feel about this. But I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to get into it. Y'all tap in, enjoy. Okay, so I'm minding my business, right? Trying to come out of this slump of the post lottery night that we've had. And you guys, obviously a lot of y'all were on the journey with us as we went through a bout of the quickest depressions you've ever seen. But, I'm back. I've had time to think about certain things and weigh out our options and expanding my thoughts to what it means for other teams. So, a little more optimistic today, with the fourth pick. There's a lot of opportunities for the Rockets to make some moves in the draft to acquire players, to acquire other, draft assets for the future, acquire other things. So I'm minding my business, just going about my day, trying to figure out, what the Rockets are going to look like. And Chris Haynes drops a tweet with a link to an article in Bleacher Report with discussing certain free agency topics, and one of them included a certain a former Houston Rockets player, James Harden, right? And in this article, and I'm going to read it, this is funny stuff to me. It's crazy stuff to me. There was a lot of debate about, Harden is just here to mentor our guys. He's going to be here to help the kids. Harden is coming to change. He's going to adapt to the system, blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Let's go straight from the source. Now, I trust Chris. He's not a clickbait reporter. He's pretty well connected in the NBA. You guys see him on the sidelines at a lot of these playoff games. So I don't think he's just going to say stuff that's just openly capped just for the sake of it. That's not his style. He has been wrong in the past, but everybody is. But to me, you don't just put stuff like this out just because you think it's clickbait. So in his article, it kind of goes over multiple players, but in the section about James Harden, he says, Philadelphia 76er star James Harden attempts to decline his $35 million player option to become an unrestricted free agent this summer in order to secure a long-term deal, league sources tell Bleacher Report. So Harden's going to decline his player option. Obviously, this is not news. We knew that he's going for the bag. Why would he take $35 million if he could earn more? Cool. He goes on to say, Harden, 33 years old, took a sizable pay cut last offseason to help the Sixers build the roster out. The guard will now be seeking a 4-year contract. First red flag. You already know my stance. I was cool Harden coming, pause, but just for a shorter contract. I don't want to see this guy around 37, 38 years old. You guys have known me. I've been consistent with my position. There's no benefit to me for us to have James Harden come into our franchise, back into our franchise, and basically take over and become the centerpiece. And we start running around and breaking our back, trying to placate his every whims and wants. Because guess what? The last time we did that, it got us to where we are today. So how do I know that he's not coming to be this knight in shining armor, to teach Jalen Green how to be a basketball player, to teach Kevin Porter how to pass the ball, to teach Jabari how to get to his spots? Let's continue reading. It says the 10-time All-Star is coming off a year averaging 21 points, good, 6 rebounds, nice, and the league-leading 10.7 assists. It says the Houston Rockets, okay, now we're talking about the Rockets, have long been rumored as a destination for Harden. But sources say Harden will only entertain suitors that present a competitive roster, ding, and basketball freedom for the star to be himself, sources say. Okay. This is where it kind of goes left for me. Okay? So let's stop there and just talk about that real quick. He is basically requesting that the roster he goes to be competitive. He's also requesting that he is allowed freedom to do what he does. Now, I'm putting 2 and 2 together. I remember vividly maybe it was a week or 2 ago, after he had a performance that basically was, I would call, a moment where he pissed down his leg against the Boston Celtics in a Game 7 to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, playing alongside a MVP candidate, where he only scored 11 points. But what Harden is asking now is that whatever team is going to take on his superstardom has to fix their roster to the point where they're ready to compete and also allow him to play in his style. And I remember after that game where he pissed down his legs, one of the things that he had said was that he sacrificed to play the way he was playing. The way that a lot of people applauded him that he had quote unquote adapted to was really a sacrifice on his behalf. And in fact, it was uncomfortable and not something that he longed to do, which caused some disagreements between him and Doc Rivers, who ultimately Doc Rivers got fired. So this like pass first style, this passive Harden, turns out that he doesn't really, that's not his that's not his MO. That's not what he's trying to cook. We know what Harden likes. We know what Harden likes. Right? 1-4 flat, right? We know what Harden likes. Let him cook. High screen and roll, ISO, step back threes, lob, floater. Hey, you stay in your corner, PJ Tucker. You're going to stand there and wait for me to decide if the defense allows me to pass you the ball. Hey, you're going to stay here, Maxey. If I kick it to you, attack the closeout. I don't want Jabari and Jalen being those guys, man. I already said that. I don't want my guys playing alongside that Harden. And damn sure don't want the Rockets to be trying to rebuild the franchise because James Harden wants to come back. To me, that'll be the worst thing that they could do. You've made it this far out into the rebuild. You finally got to the point where you have some assets, the flexibility, and the willingness to be able to try to build a competitive roster. You don't take 2 years, three years backwards in steps to go back to trying to build the same team around James Harden that you were going to build in 2020 when he left you and said the situation's not going to work, or whatever the phrase that he said. It's just, we're not good enough. I'm looking at this. I'm not even mad if Harden wants to come back. You already know I'm cool with him coming back. Oh, 2 + 1. Okay, you want to do the 4? Them last 2 years, we're gonna have to stang you on the money. You know, you're not getting this 4-year max, because that would roughly pay James Harden at 37 years old, already on the decline. That would roughly pay him about 48, 49, $50 million. That would be an albatross of a contract. So if the Rockets think that it is worth them shipping out possibly some of our young players, bringing in vets, and using the assets that we've accumulated through all the suffering that this franchise and the fan base has gone through, to then build a team around the same James Harden that thrust us into this position, then we have no hope for the franchise. And I'm just hoping that Rafael Stone is looking at these demands and saying, okay, that's cute. Now, all of this could be just a negotiation ploy, just something, you got to start high, then work your way down. Those are still in the cards. And I'm not sure how many teams in the NBA are going to be willing to meet Harden's demands. But I hope we are not one of them. I hope we're not one of them, because what the term is, you're hustling backwards. If you're gonna restructure your roster to maximize competitiveness and then pay a guy a 4-year, $200 million contract to be here into his late 30s. But let's keep reading. So it says, it goes on to say, at the moment, the Sixers are the only logical option, coming off a third place finish in the Eastern Conference in the regular season. But the dynamic in Philadelphia will undoubtedly change next season, considering the Sixers have to find the right coach after dismissing Doc Rivers, Mike D'Antoni. If Houston is all in on a Harden reunion, here's what we have to do, it says. It will take some roster reconstruction to entice Harden. Why are we trying to entice him? Houston has a promising young core that includes Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, and Alperen Sengun, along with the number 4 pick in the upcoming draft. But the team tied for the worst record in the Western Conference last season. So, I love how Chris juxtaposed the enticement of Harden with our young core and cap space and our draft assets. Because that doesn't mean that Harden is coming because of those things. I think he's just making a justification of what we could use. We could use the players and say, hey, we got Jalen Green. We got this guy. We also have the number 4 pick, but that doesn't reconcile with being competitive. The number 4 pick has nothing to do with Harden and being competitive. The number 4 pick is a bait to get this guy players that he could play with. I'm all out. I'm all out. If this is the thinking that James Harden has, hey, man, hey, good luck in Philly, bro. And I hope that the Rockets, their front office, their ownership, has enough gall, has the cojones to be able to make a decision that's best for the organization in the long term. We don't need this. We don't need him. We don't need him. There's other teams, 29 other teams that did not have James Harden in the NBA, and there's a lot of them made the playoffs, right? There's teams that didn't have James Harden that are going to make the playoffs. OKC didn't have James Harden next year. You know what I mean? So we don't need James Harden. There are a lot of other vets. You guys already know my position. Get some vets in here. Get some guys that want to come play basketball. All the talk I've heard about all season is about how James Harden wants to come down to Houston for everything else besides basketball. He misses it. It's home. It's comfortable. He likes the people here. Boy ain't said nothing about basketball. And the first time we get a little crack into the insight of why he might want to come down, he wants to come down not only because he wants to be comfortable, he wants to go to a place that is low pressure, that he doesn't have to meet any expectations. At the same time, bro wants to have his cake and eat it too by also having a roster that he can take to the playoffs and be competitive with and get to play the way he wants to play. Hey man, we're not, that's not it. That's not it for me. I'm out on that, fully out on that. I think that we can still obviously talk to James Harden. If you can get him down here, like I said, on something that doesn't basically destroy your rebuild, where you can try to balance both the long-term plans for our young fellas and the immediate need to be a competitive team, let's do that. I'm open for all those talks. But what I'm not open for is just tearing down all of this because James Harden says so. I don't give a damn how good he was when he was back here. We have to be able to move on. Every move we make should be looked at from how do the Rockets benefit from it. No one player, person, individual should ever supersede the collective benefit of the Houston Rockets organization, and that organization includes the fans of the Houston Rockets in Houston, Texas. So I think I speak for a lot of people when I say, no bueno, we don't want it. That's a hard pass for us. He can go on. If Philly wants to entertain that, if Daryl Morey wants to continue his love affair with James Harden by giving him a 4-year max, more power to them. You know what I mean? They can go for it. Maybe he'll get over it next year. But I don't want none of that. I don't want none of that. I don't want us breaking up nothing over James Harden. The dude is not the same player he was when he left here, and he damn sure is not going to be the same player when he's 36, 37, 38 years old. When your guys, once again, the logic for me is I'm thinking at that point in the future, when we get there, when we are actually a team that is contending, it's not going to be because of James Harden. It's going to be because of our young guys. It's going to be because of Jalen Green, of Alperen Sengun. It's going to be because of Jabari Smith Jr. So if we're actually at that point where we're contending, and I'm leaning on those young guys, but I have this like $50 million just hold in my salary because there's a player that I wanted to be on ESPN 3 more times in 2023 when we only won 38 games for. It's stupid, right? It's not a bright move. And the only reason that Harden will make us competitive, and this just revalidates what I already thought, is going to be based on his play and his merits, not because of our guys are just taking leaps, right? If he plays his style is going to be based on how he plays. So if we make the playoffs, it's going to be because of James Harden. And even though that is very satisfying in the short term, I don't want that. I don't want James to come here and turn Jalen Green into Tyrese Maxey. I want to build some Jason Tatums and Jaylen Browns right here in Houston. I want our guys to get to the playoffs with structure, support, and great coaching and good vets around them. They're going to try to help them reach their maximum level of play. So I'm out on the James Harden thing. I want Jalen, Jabari, Sengun. I want Tari, Garuba, Jacob, whoever is here, KPJ. Hey, if you guys can internally develop and get to the point where you can get us to where we need to be as a team, and you bring in some vets, we might even lose a couple of those guys, which is cool. That happens. That's the progression of building a team. Bring in some vets, some good vets that are focused on being vets, some good players that can also be good when we're trying to win the championship. Bring those type of guys in, build this roster out the right way. Don't take the cop-out, Rafael Stone. Don't take the cop-out, Rafael Stone. Do right by the Rockets. We've endured for 3 years. We're not going to crash out now trying to get on ESPN 3 more times so Tillman can sell a couple more tickets, so the NBA can sell a couple more Houston Harden jerseys. It's not worth it, guys. If you stay patient enough, you can build a dynasty. But it's going to be based on what the Rockets do. Like I said, the ball is in your court, Mr. Stone, Mr. Fertitta, the Fertittas, Patrick Tillman, whoever else is in the organization. The ball is in your court. The city of Houston is watching. Y'all do right by this city, or else it's gonna be consequences. I ain't afraid to wear a brown bag. I ain't been to a game in a minute now. You know what I mean? I ain't been to a game in a minute. If y'all, we keep doing this funny stuff. I might start calling for people to protest the team. But we love Rockets basketball, so we're always going to support it. But I am way out. If this is what Harden wants, out of it. I'm out of there. So we can move on from that. Once again, I'm open to talk. If he wants to negotiate with the team, his side, and the Rockets want to talk about lowering that contract, let's do it. Otherwise, I'm out because I think he's on the decline. We don't need it. I don't want it. We don't need that type of energy around our franchise. We got the guys, Jalen, Jabari, Sengun, Tari. We have talent in-house. We got this fourth pick. As days go on, I'm starting to get a little, I'm getting a little enticed. I'm looking at some of these players. So we'll see. But, of course, y'all let me know in the chat. How do you feel about this? Check out the report by Chris Haynes. The link is going to be in the description of this video or podcast, wherever you're consuming this from. And once again, support the Chop Shop. Hit us up on the Cash App. You can see that at the top left-hand corner of your screen. Support the channel so we can keep dropping this